Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Classic Live Album War. Today we've got two progressive rock live albums from the 70s, right? One from a absolutely legendary band. The other from, not a well-known band, but a very well-respected band among the progressive rock and space rock community. We're talking about Pictures at an Exhibition from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, otherwise known as ELP, released in 1971, and then released in 1978 from Germany, Eloy Live. Okay, so starting off the 70s, rounding out the 70s. Let's start off with Pictures at an Exhibition. Okay, so kind of takes a lot of balls for a fairly new band, albeit a supergroup, all right, which is what they were touted at the time, and as history shows it, ELP were indeed a pretty big supergroup, right? Pretty ballsy to release as your second album, okay? They have the debut. Your second album is a live album. Not only is it a live album, but it's basically your reimagining of a major classical work or suite. It's exactly what these guys did. So Keith Emerson had it gotten in his head that he wanted the new band to do their own kind of take, right, on Pictures at an Exhibition. Of course, the famous work by Modest Mussorgsky. So they went, rehearsed it, okay, did some recordings behind the scenes, whatever, and decided they were going to go at Newcastle City Hall in Newcastle, England, for the big debut of their reimagining of this classical suite. Okay? As history shows, pretty successful, right? I think a lot of people, bought into it then, buy into it now. Why not, right? Because I think out of a lot of the kind of rock bands who were around at the time, who better than to tackle something so outrageous, as an ELP. They made it work. You had Keith Emerson, who was well-versed in all sorts of different styles, and classical was right up his alley, right? You had Carl Palmer on drums, who, of course, could also do whatever. And then Greg Lake, okay, adding his silky bass tones and wonderful vocals to sections of this piece, right, because they added in some vocal parts. So we've got, again, basically one long piece, right? So you got, the Promenade, the Gnome, okay, the Sage, the Old Castle, Blues Variation, okay, which they kind of threw in there. Again, back to Promenade, the Hut of Baba Yaga, the Curse of Baba Yaga, okay, the Great Gates of Kiev, obviously, right? Nutrocker, okay, so basically what they did was they kind of, again, they reimagined this great classical piece. All right, and I think all in all, the whole thing totals, I don't even think it's quite 40 minutes, but pretty well done. Very bombastic and orchestral, right, with lots of little solo spots and, all the kind of intricacies that always went into an Emerson, Lake and Palmer performance here, tackling those, something that was not their own, but they added their own embellishments, okay, which was kind of neat. And it's a pretty beloved album. A lot of people really dig it. When most people think of the classic ELP live album, usually it's the Welcome Back, My Friends, to the Show That Never Ends live album, right? And a lot of people, I think, forget that this actually was a live album, all right? Again, pretty novel idea to, you're a new band on the scene, and we're going to release our second album. It's going to be a live album, and it's going to be us doing a classical piece. Hey, but it worked. They took a chance and it worked, right? So you can't fault them for that. Great performances on there, by the way, from everybody. I mean, that's kind of like Keith Emerson's baby, sort of, all right? But the whole band really shines on there. Some amazing bass playing from Greg Lake on that, too, I might add. Really, really good. But the whole band really firing on all cylinders. Here we have Eloy Live, okay? So I will say one of the bands that has been most requested to be featured in this live classic live album war tournament that we're having is Eloy, and specifically this. I've gotten some requests for one of the later live albums, but specifically this album. So I kind of saved it for the end. I wasn't going to do it, but then I figure, ELP's got to come back in this tournament somehow, and I always wanted to squeeze this in. I actually had this in line to go against another album, which I decided not to go with. I'm not even going to name it because it's just really, it's from the classic period, it's from the 70s, but it's really just not that good. So I decided not to. It's okay, but it's not that great. I think this is much better. So Unfortunately, though, I'm sure we're going to, as I'm seeing on the Facebook poll right now, just a lot of people have never heard this or are not familiar. You know, to the masses, Eloy is completely unknown. To people who are pretty familiar with prog rock, okay, especially from the classic era, they know well who these guys are. Great German band, okay, kind of did that krautrock thing, prog, lots of space rock, okay, very interesting band. Great guitar work, lots of cool spacey keyboards, really good band. So, in fact, I should probably tell you who plays on this album, right? So we got Frank Bornemann. Yeah, I'm probably have to open up the CD. Frank Bornemann on guitars and vocals. Jürgen Rosenthal on drums. Sorry, he also played with the Scorpions briefly. We've got Detlier Schmitzkin on keyboards and Klaus-Peter Merziol on bass. I probably butchered most of those names, but sorry about that. Not only is they're German names, but the print is like microscopic on here. It's hard to see. But anyway, back to the album. A really good album. This kind of came on the heels, recorded on their 1978 tour of Europe and what have you. Kind of came on the heels of, the Ocean and Silent Cries and Mighty Echoes, that whole period. So that's really their space rock period. So we've got a fantastic opener, Poseidon's Creation, almost 12 minutes long, spacey and lyrical, and lots of great synths and guitar leads, really good. The Incarnation of Logos follows that. It's like one epic after another. The Sun Song, The Dance in Doubt and Fear, Mutiny, which is fantastic on here, Gliding into Light and Knowledge, Inside. Okay, so we got some older tunes from their catalog, as well as some of the more recent at the times, and then finishing it off, a mammoth 21-minute version of Atlantis' Agony at June 5th, 84 at 98, 13 p.m. Gregorian Earth Time. Of course, that Ocean album's got all sorts of like lengthy song titles and things like that. And the performances on here are stellar. Okay, I mean, the fact they can recreate that kind of grand vision of those albums is truly mind-blowing. An excellent, excellent album, all right? So, but of course, I got to kind of pick a favorite here amongst these two. The underdog in me wants to go with this. But in all honesty, I haven't had this for very, very long. I think I've only had this for whatever reason. I've had a lot of Eloy. I was going to say ELO. God forbid. Totally different band. And I love ELO. I've had a lot of the Eloy catalog for many, many, many years. But I only just got this within the last couple. All right. So, but I've been listening to this for a long, long time. So while I think that this is spectacular because it's got all their original music and some of their best stuff from some of their classic albums, and it's just a great performance. This is I love the risk taking that they did with this, and I just think that this is a kind of somewhat of an underrated gem in their catalog. And I think it, like I said, pretty ballsy what they did here. And I think it's very, very successful. It's just so over the top and bombastic. It basically gives you everything that's so great about ELP in one little nice tiny package. So I'm going to give the edge today to Pictures at an Exhibition by ELP. Not by much, because I love this. This is quite good. And let me tell you something. If you've never listened to Eloy before, check this out. Good place to start, right? I mean, it doesn't have a ton of songs on it, but it's got a good amount of music. All the songs are lengthy, and it gives you a great kind of idea of what Eloy is all about. All right, and on stage they're a really good band. So there you have it. ELP, going to give it a unanimous decision. 117, 112, 115, 113, 116, 114. All right, I just think it's just more of an impact, I think. Both great albums, and again, you may like one or the other over the other, and that's fine. That's what it's all about, right? Make sure you vote. Little white circle with the letter I in it, Eloy or ELP. All right, go on and vote on our Facebook page. In 6 days, I'm going to cut off the count, and I'm going to take the winner who's going to move on to round 2. Okay, so, but like I said, 2 great live albums. We've got one more coming up today, and then we got a weekend full of guest stars. Hopefully that's all going to happen this weekend. We'll be finishing up the tapings for the remainder of round 1, and then we're going to take a break for about a week and a half, 2 weeks from these Classic Live Album Wars for me to tabulate all the voting, put together the new round 2 listing, so that the new bracket, so to speak, match up all we're going to do and get ready to start going into round 2 on these. So we'll see where it goes, right? Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube every day. We'll see you guys later. Take care.